All right, take a look at this. Live pictures coming in from the East Room of the White House right at the top of the hour. The President Trump, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, they've been meeting. They'll hold a formal joint news conference. They'll open with statements, answer reporters' questions. In the meantime, let's bring in our legal analyst, Laura Coates. She's with us, as well as CNN political analyst Kirsten Powers. Kirsten, the U.S.-Canadian relationship is critically important. A lot of people don't realize America's #1 trading partner is not the EU, it is not China, it's not Japan, it's Canada.
It's Canada, yeah. And I think people are wondering, why does Donald Trump seem to be so much more obsessed with Mexico than he is with Canada? And one of the things maybe is because we run a surplus now for the first time in 24 years with Canada versus a deficit with Mexico. And so he's been much more focused on feeling like we're getting a bad deal from Mexico. And I think that, a lot of people are looking at this meeting with a lot of interest because these leaders are so different. Justin Trudeau is really sort of a liberal superhero, I think, progressive hero. And they have a lot that they could disagree with on substantively, but Trudeau seems to be really focused on trying to have a smooth relationship with Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's doing his best, but they have serious differences. As you know, Laura, especially on the president's travel ban, the policies on refugees, immigrations. The Canadian Prime Minister tweeted this: to those fleeing persecution, terror, and war, Canadians will welcome you regardless of your faith. Diversity is our strength. So I didn't hear in there, the notion of extreme vetting.
No, and it's funny that every president seems to be on the bandwagon of tweeting their viewpoints, their policy objectives. But the reason for that is because a lot of this is moving in real time, Wolf. I mean, on Friday, the president of the United States said that he was not going to appeal to the Supreme Court for the travel ban. Then a Ninth Circuit judge came back and said, actually, I might want to have a revote on how the Ninth Circuit ruled. And then you have now, in real time, at 3 o'clock today, you may very well have another appeal. So I think that what's going on is a tendency of all these world leaders to come around and say, listen, this is so quick, fast, and moving quickly, but let me get my viewpoints known. And I think Trudeau was signaling, not so lightheartedly, that they do not believe in this ban.
I'm wondering if a reporter is going to, I think 2 American reporters get to ask questions, 2 Canadian reporters get to ask questions. I'm wondering if one of the questions is going to be involve the future of the National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn. And what the president might say about that.
I think that's what everybody wants to know, what he's thinking about it, right? We have all this reporting about what everybody around him thinks, but nobody, and we have some reporting showing that, President Trump is upset with him, but we don't know what that means. We don't know if that means that he would actually fire him. I will say, we talk a lot about Donald Trump valuing loyalty. He tends to value it in one direction, right? So he requires a lot of loyalty from people, but the fact that Flynn has been with him from early on doesn't necessarily mean that he wouldn't throw him overboard. Look at Corey Lewandowski, obviously very loyal, and when it came to the point where he felt he wasn't the right person, he was more than happy to move him out.
He fired a whole bunch of people during Paul Manafort, if you remember. There were a series of top campaign officials who were let go for a variety of reasons, and others, even though they worked really hard for him, they were sort of neglected and didn't get jobs in the administration.
Because I think he looks at what's best for him. He doesn't really. Corey's the best example to compare to Flynn because he was so loyal and there in the beginning, very much the way Flynn was. And so I think a lot of people think, well, he'll be loyal to him because of that. I don't think so. I think he'll keep him if he decides that he wants to keep him and it's good for him. But I don't think he's going to keep him because out of
legally,
loyalty.
the Logan Act. People talk about the Logan Act. Laura, you're a legal analyst. That it's been in effect for a couple hundred years, but it's never seriously been used. Explain why he potentially could have, Michael Flynn could have some legal problems.
Well, the Logan Act essentially says no private citizen can stand in the face or stand in the shoes of the president or any other person in regards to foreign policy. We want one president to be able to speak on behalf of the government. And so the timing is so important. Remember, he allegedly made these connections to the Russian ambassador right after President Obama came down with sanctions against Russia, and nobody retaliated. And that gave a lot of pause to the FBI and intelligence community. And so now the question we have is not whether or not this is going to be a legal issue. It's usually a political weapon, the Logan Act being used, except in one instance, and that is if there really is an investigation into Russia's alleged hacking into our elections, you better believe that if there was a benefit derived for Flynn or the administration based on that communication, that will buttress the original investigation. So the Logan Act political weapon. Boehner was accused of having violated it for Netanyahu. You had Pelosi accused of the same thing. Jesse Jackson was accused of it years and years and years ago. But really the issue here is the investigation about Russians' alleged hacking.
Very quickly.
I would just say that this, where this is different from, I think, the other ones, is it does involve what is sort of on its face sort of shady behavior, right? To be going and doing this and to making promises to the Russians when you shouldn't be talking to them is a problem.
You see people have now gathered in the East Room of the White House. We're going to go there any moment now. The President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Canada, they'll be holding a joint news conference. CNN will have live coverage when we return.